Hi, this is Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson.
What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner.
Hey, I'm Zane Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Matt Barry from ESPN. You're getting ready to watch one of the best college football podcasts ever. It's the Harris Highlight Show.
You're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you listen to the Harris Highlight Show. Enjoy it.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from Monrovia, California, this is the Harris Highlight Show. Joining me this week is our college football analyst, Josh Schaefer, our college football expert, Lyle Goldstein, our executive producer, Brady Klane's computer literally just froze a moment ago. Looks like Lyle froze for like 5 seconds, so I thought we were about to lose him. I'm your host for the evening, Blake Harris. Gentlemen, it's been a few weeks. I can't remember when our last show was, but I think it was before bowl season. How's everyone been the last couple of weeks?
Oh, Blake, we're just absolutely buzzing. The boys are a wagon. We're living every day to the fullest as best we can. That's all I got.
Who's a wagon? The boys are a wagon. Who are the boys?
The boys are a wagon, Lyle. Unstoppable. They are an unstoppable wagon.
Yeah.
Boys
Lyle.
are a wagon.
Blake knows.
Yeah, the boys are in fact a wagon. Guys, we've missed the last few weeks, but we got a lot to break to tonight. As you can see by the title of this video, this is going to be our national championship preview. We're going to be talking about Alabama, Ohio State. We're also going to be recapping the two playoff games. We'd love to hear Lyle's thoughts on good old Notre Dame. They didn't win, but they covered. So if anything, that's a win in itself. We're also going to be talking about a few other of the bowl games and pretty much just talking about what that means for the college football playoff moving forward. We're also going to be talking about Devontae Smith winning the Heisman Trophy, the latest coaching changes and all that kind of fun stuff. And we're going to be doing a Q&A and a whole lot of fun things coming your way. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to follow the show on Twitter at the HHShow_. A lot of great content over there, and that way you keep up to date with us, see what the latest is, and when we're going to be doing our show. Because normally we do shows on Tuesday. We decided we'd do it on a Thursday this week, not to interfere with the Heisman. You guys can follow us on Instagram at Harris Highlight Show. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. We're on all that kind of stuff. So you guys want to listen to the show, you guys can do that over there. You guys can also support the show by donating to the Super Chat. If you guys have anything you'd like to hear us talk about, any questions, comments, thoughts on previous games, upcoming matchups, anything like that, you guys can support the show for as little as $1. It helps support the show on a week-to-week basis, helps us do this on a week-to-week basis, and plus it helps you have your questions answered, and it comes up in a nice shiny color like that. Or you guys can become Patreon members for little as $1 a month. You guys can get access to a nice behind-the-scenes Twitter group chat. That's a whole lot of fun. So a lot of cool benefits. The link to that is in the description below. Also, guys, some brand new information. We officially have a Discord page. Myself, haven't been born, all the way back in the 1990s. I'm what you call a grandpa. So this whole Discord thing
We're all born in the 90s.
Yeah, I know. I was a joke because you guys are such youngsters. I figure you guys were born in the 2010s. We're on Discord now. We had some fans set up a Discord, so essentially, I guess it's like a Slack channel kind of, but for a bunch of fans. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. You guys can go over there. You guys can talk college football with a bunch of fans. There's a bunch of cool little tabs where you can like suggest video ideas. There's like a Pac-12 discussion tab, an SEC discussion chat tab. So you guys can discuss a whole bunch of topics. It's a whole lot of fun. The link to that is in the description below. So if you youngsters out there are on Discord, or hey, even if you college or high schoolers are on Discord, again, back in my day, we didn't have Discord, but Discord's a thing. It's a whole lot of fun. I've been checking it out every other day or so, and it's kind of fun. So again, if you're on Discord, we're over there. I don't know if there's a link for it. I don't know if you can go to discord.com/Harris Highlights, but hey, we're on Discord. And we got Hugh Hefner joining us right here, rocking his robe, and he's got a nice drink in hand. So, guys, let's kick things off first with the playoff games, because I'm sure everyone wants to hear our thoughts on how those two went. So, we all thought that one game was going to be the better game, and it was. So why don't we start with that one? Clemson, Ohio State. Ohio State, they had a lot going for them. They were 7-point underdogs in a playoff game, which is shocking. Dabo Swinney was running his mouth for weeks saying Ohio State didn't deserve to be there, and last year's Fiesta Bowl left a sour taste in their mouth. But they came out, they beat Clemson by 3 touchdowns. I don't think anyone was expecting that. I don't even think Ohio State fans were expecting that. I don't even know if Clemson players were expecting something like that, let alone Ohio State players. So what were you guys' thoughts on the beatdown that Ohio State gave to Clemson? Because I think all of us, except for Brady, I think Brady might have picked Ohio State in our pick'ems, but the three of us and most of the country figured Clemson would, roll over them with these, and they'd be playing Alabama in the national championship game.
Let me just say right away, I don't even know if this was the better game, was it? I
was more entertained watching this one than the first one.
I agree with that. I was more entertained watching this one. I sent you guys a text message during this game, and I'll just basically reiterate here for everybody that's not in our 4-person group chat. And it's aside from that really bad interception, which I think is going to detract from his overall performance. Aside from that interception, I genuinely think that was the most impressive performance of Justin Fields' career. Given the context, given the stats, given the eye test, given how he played with what we all thought originally was going to be several broken ribs, I was floored at how good he was, especially after he left the game with that injury and then came back. So I think full credit to Justin Fields. I'm excited for the next game. I thought that Ohio State was a playoff team, but obviously we've talked about this in the past that 6 games is 6 games. The strength of schedule was at the time going into the conference championship week comparable with USC's, who everyone did not think was a playoff team, obviously. But we had voiced some opinions about Ohio State and some concerns about Ohio State, and all of those are gone now going into the national championship game. And especially with Justin Fields, because obviously he didn't have a phenomenal season. And he didn't have a bad season. It just wasn't totally what I was expecting. But again, this whole season has not been what I was expecting. So totally impressed with Justin Fields and Ohio State and the offense. They were unstoppable. Trey Sermon, Justin Fields. all of them. They were unstoppable all game. Clemson essentially had no answer. And when it looked like they were starting to slow them down a little bit, James Skalski got disqualified from the game. For the second year in a row, kicked out of a playoff game, which is unfortunate for him. He announced he's coming back, so that's good for him, and it's good for Clemson. But I have no concerns with Ohio State moving forward. None.
Can they just change that targeting rule, please? I know it was targeting by the lay of the law, but by the rule of the law, but you don't need to miss a whole game for that. I hate that. I think you got to bend the rules.
Just give me a 15-yard penalty, and the player has to sit out the rest of the drive, and then just
sit a drive, sit a quarter, whatever.
Unless it's the Arizona State San Diego State thing from years ago, where the guy was actually trying to kill him. But yeah, the targeting thing is stupid.
Yeah, there's too much gray. That's something that we could dedicate an entire show to, because there isn't yes targeting versus no targeting. There's a gray area, and the rule needs to reflect that.
Exactly. Same thing with Sean Wade last year, and that affected the game too. That wasn't a play he should have missed an entire game for. But back to this game. It was phenomenal. First off, I know people are still mad about it. Brady, Indiana fans are still mad about it. What this showed to me is the Big Ten did the right thing, bending the rules for Ohio State. I know people are mad, but they very clearly needed to be in this playoff because they're one of the 3 best teams and now clearly one of the 2 best teams in college football. So I know in a crazy year, people were mad about, changing rules and stopping and starting rules. They needed to be in. And very clearly, they're one of the 2 best teams. In terms of this game as a whole, yeah, you guys said it. I mean, Justin Fields, not only is this easily the best game of his career, outside of Joe Burrow last year, this has to be the best game any quarterback's had in a semifinal game. I mean, 6 touchdowns, 400 yards, after what looked like he got his ribs just shattered. I thought he was done. I thought Clemson was going to pull away. That was going to be the turning point, and we'd get Bama Clemson again. But Justin Fields, man, we might get to some national championship preview talk later and what's the status of his injury. I mean, you would have never known if you turn the game on in the second half or end of the second quarter, whatever, you would have never known that guy was injured. And not just Justin Fields, but this might be the best quarterback running back combined performance in a playoff game. What people forget is, it's so overshadowed by Fields is Trey Sermon was just shy of 200 yards in this game. We talked about it. I thought that Dabo's comments weren't going to mean anything. It was going to be a storyline heading into the game just because he likes to talk and he likes to stir up drama. I thought Clemson was easily the better team. I picked them to win the national championship of these 4 teams. But Ohio State, man, they went out, they proved everybody wrong, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with come Monday.
Yeah, given the circumstances, the fact, Joe Burrow, what he did last year was phenomenal, but I think this is probably better than anything we saw from Burrow last year. Just considering, one, they were, I'm not gonna say massive underdogs, but if you're a touchdown underdog in a playoff game, that's saying a lot. The fact that he went out there, 400 yards, 6 passing touchdowns. I think he had more touchdown passes than incomplete passes, something crazy like that. He didn't have many incomplete passes. And the fact that Lyle said this dude straight up, he either broke his ribs or there was something, because watching this guy like just on the sideline, did you see the shot like at the end when he was like trying to get off the bike? And it looked like, one of those things when you wake up in the morning when you're my age and you just can't get out of bed. He looked like he couldn't even move. So the fact that given that he took down Clemson, they dominated Clemson. Now, granted, everything did go Ohio State's way. It seemed like just they couldn't do no wrong. But he's coming in at the right time. But this just also goes to show how good that Northwestern defense is, because they made Justin Fields look awful a few weeks ago. But Justin Fields, game of his life, not his career, like going back to probably when he was like a 5-year-old playing football. I don't think he's had a game like this. Trey Sermon, he's looked fantastic. He's pulling like one of those what Zeke did like 6 years ago when Ohio State went on that insane run in all those playoff games. Trey Sermon looks like the best running back. And Chris Olave, I guess when we saw it against Northwestern, just how much of a big deal it is not having Justin Fields' top weapon. Chris Olave, he looked like a first-round pick out there for a wide receiver. He looked dominant. And again, just everything went Ohio State's way. Clemson, I don't know what happened to Travis Etienne, but the dude legit is like broken. He cannot run the ball anymore. He's still great in the passing game, but man, even going back to that Notre Dame game, he has just looked like a different player. No running back's draft stock has taken more of a hit than Travis Etienne's this year, but I was shocked again, just to the fact that it was a 3-touchdown win for Ohio State over Clemson. But again, it's just everything went their way. Clemson just didn't look that good. And again, Ohio State, they had the momentum from last year's loss. That was sour. They had it like in their weight room, like what the final score was. So every time they were, in the weight room working out, they were reminded of that score. And I do think Dabo Swinney's comments did probably get under their skin just a little. But overall, just impressive from Ohio State. I will eat my words that they are deserving of being a playoff team. Lyle said, good thing the Big Ten bended the rules, because they clearly showed they're deserving of being in the college football playoff, and now they're in the title game just like that. So, yeah, a great performance by Ohio State. And Brady, since we officially have you back now, your computer's working, before we move on to the Alabama-Notre Dame game, we can hear your thoughts on Ohio State-Clemson.
Yeah, I'm not the one usually with computer problems, but my audio wouldn't work. My computer froze everything. So, just a great day to start everything.
What's that supposed to mean, Brady?
I don't know, Josh.
Hey, guess who has not pinwheeled once this show so far?
Give it a minute.
I wasn't going to say anything, but we got new Wi-Fi, so.
Oh, there you go.
Usually Josh freezes. Lyle's mic wants to give us, all just ear bleeds, and I'm out for 10 minutes because my Wi-Fi goes out, but Brady's always perfect. But
I got hardwired Wi-Fi, hardwired internet, everything. Anyways.
Nice flex, Brady.
Blake, like you said to start the show, I was the one person that picked Ohio State. And I was like, listen, I don't know why, but I just had a feeling. And I went with it, and, it paid off. And I'm glad it did. Like you guys said, I couldn't even hear what you guys were talking about earlier, so I'll just keep it really short to not repeat anything. Justin Fields had, Blake, I heard you say this, the game of his life. Balled out, played as best as he could. I think the best we've ever seen from Justin Fields in college. And he played well enough that there was question on, well, should the Jaguars take him number 1 overall instead of Trevor Lawrence? It's still going to be Trevor Lawrence, but it was being put out there like, well, maybe Justin Fields is better. I don't think so. I still think Trevor Lawrence is the better guy.
The thing that sums this up perfectly is they're going to go with Trevor Lawrence no matter what, but now what's happening is they're having a draft day scenario where Sonny Weaver's saying, all right, wait, give me all the film on Justin Fields. Give me something on him. They're still going to go with Lawrence, but now they're saying, okay, maybe we should do our research now.
Maybe. Yeah, it's definitely going to be something where they'll do a little more research instead of the clear-cut favorite where everyone knew who it was going to be. But I think, this was such a great showing for Ohio State. Trey Sermon, like you guys said a minute ago, was having a Zeke-type playoff in the last few weeks of the season, and is really doing everything right in his favor to help boost his stock, if any. Whereas, like ETN is going the opposite direction. So I thought it was such a fun game. I was watching it with actually somebody from Columbus who is a diehard Ohio State fan. So my house was very loud, and it was a good time there. And I'm glad it played out like that because I had a hunch and I went with it. And the Buckeyes are making their way down to Miami.
Yeah, I mean, hey, something's has to happen for the Big Ten considering Indiana's bowl performance against the Fighting Lane Kiffins because how to embarrass the conference 101. Guys, another game.
Being honest, real quick, I think the Big Ten set them up to fail. They pulled a Pac-12. I mean, the fact that you deliberately kept that team out of the Big Ten championship game and then their consolation game that weekend against, I think it was Purdue, right? Got canceled. And
they were supposed to play Purdue the last week of the year. They pushed it back to the consolation week, and
so
then
2 weeks in a row you get your game canceled.
IU hadn't played in a month,
and Ole Miss had played in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or something like that, and IU hadn't played in over a month. So I understand what Lyle said earlier. Like ultimately for the Big Ten and for Ohio State, as messed up as it was probably the right decision to keep IU out and put Ohio State in, but in doing so, they totally screwed over Indiana.
Yeah.
All right, so moving to the next game now. We'll throw this one to Lyle because I'm interested to hear his full thoughts on it. Alabama, they didn't hang 70 just like everyone thought they would. They were coming on an insane streak going back to 2018, most consecutive games with 35 points. They were averaging 50 points a game, the most in the country. And they were coming off they put up like 52, I think, against Florida. And they come out here and Notre Dame holds them, I believe, to 31 points. As I mentioned, Notre Dame covered with the very last second touchdown that affected many people, including my uncle, unfortunately. But Lyle, so from a Notre Dame fan, let's pretty much hear your thoughts on why didn't Alabama hang more? Was it kind of the whole thing where they got it to a certain amount and they said this game's over, we know Notre Dame's not going to come back, let's just run out the clock? Or was it just Notre Dame's defense actually showed out? They held this Notre Dame offense in check, and it was just the offense that was just still to this day is still pretty much missing.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame's defense is really good. We've talked about that all year. And I know Bama hung 31 points, but like you just said, that's less than they've hung on anybody in the last 2 years. Like Notre Dame's defense early in that game before the Devontae Smith touchdown, like at the very least, there was a few plays where their stars like Kyle Hamilton and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who just won the Butkus Award, or maybe stop that offense considering nobody does it. But I think that's why they didn't hang 70 to answer the question up here on the screen. Look, in terms of this game, like everybody knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. Like nobody expected. Bama's just that good. But I think the bigger picture here is what is Notre Dame? They're exactly what we talked about on the last show and exactly what I said on the previous show is that they're the fourth best country, but there's, at the time I said 2, now there's very clearly 3 teams that are just significantly better than them. Notre Dame was the 4th best team, but nowhere as close to as good as Alabama. And they showed that. Devontae Smith's unstoppable. Mac Jones was unbelievable. In terms of Notre Dame's play calling, like I saw this on Twitter too, I actually didn't hate it. For somebody who loves modern football, that might sound funny coming from me, and I love like up-tempo offense. I thought they tried to play to their strengths against Alabama, and their strengths are get Kyron Williams the ball in the pass game and in the run game, get Ian Book running, get him outside the pocket. It just didn't work. Like, there's only so many things you can do against that Alabama team. Brian Kelly talked about it. Like, we don't want to throw at Patrick Surtain. Not only does Notre Dame not have the skill players, he literally locks down one side of the field every game to the point where it's not even worth throwing at him. So they tried to do other things to make it work. It just didn't work. And in terms of a bigger picture here, like Stuart Mandel tweeted it. I saw Matt Berry tweet it. A lot of people tweeted it. This isn't a Notre Dame problem. Like, this is a college football problem. Like I talked about a couple weeks ago, is there's the top 3 teams, Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, and everybody else. 4-star or 5-star quarterback, a Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence type guy. If they can't beat Bama with a dominant improvement, I don't know what they can do, because you're not going to out-recruit Bama and Clemson. You're not going to out-coach Dabo or Saban. Nobody does it. So I don't hate the fight Notre Dame put up. At least they covered. But again, this is just a bigger picture problem here. And it's that there's teams that are just simply way better than the rest of the field.
Yeah, I want to add on to what Lyle said, and the first line I have in my notes and my prep is Notre Dame is a scapegoat for the rest of college football, specifically the 4 and 5 teams that are behind those top 3, but they're just not elite, which is exactly what Lyle said last week. It's what Lyle said right now, and it's what we saw after this game. A lot of people say on social media. I agree with a lot of the things that Lyle just said. I think the play calling was smart from Notre Dame offensively. It's just, when your bread and butter all season long has been Kyron Williams carrying the football, he got a lot of touches. It just didn't work. They couldn't get the run going. And then alternatively, it's something that we've said time and time again in the past, where Ian Book doesn't show up for big games. And then we rightfully gave him credit this year for having a really good season, for beating Clemson early in the year and playing probably the best game of his career. But these last couple of games, they just weren't there for him. And it's not necessarily that he didn't show up and he didn't lead the team. It just didn't work. I mean, they just got beat. That's the thing. I just thought Alabama was significantly better. And something that impressed me was when it came down to those final 2 drives and Notre Dame's moving the football. I mean, the game's over. They lost by what? 2 scores? They covered, and they lost by 17 points or something like that. They lose by 17 points or whatever it was. They cover, but the game felt like a blowout. And realistically, I thought it was a blowout. And they had, a couple of nice drives in garbage time. But what's so impressive about that is, they were done. They knew they were done, but they kept pushing at the end. Ian Book continued to lead the team all the way down the field offensively. And then he took some big hit, like the second to last play of the game or something. And he went to hop right back up on his feet. And his linemen were right there, tapped him up on the head. And we're like, the game's over. And they rushed right back to the line and then snapped the ball again and got another playoff. I think they just got beat. And I think another thing that stands out is this game could have been a lot uglier. I mean, Blake, you alluded to it. You said, how did they not score 70? And Lyle kind of talked about the defense. They actually could have scored 70 in this game. Alabama could have scored a lot more than they actually did. I mean, Notre Dame's defense, which Lyle mentioned, has been arguably the best in the country all season long. And there's been really nothing that says that they aren't, except for the last 2 games. And in this game, they, from a yardage standpoint, from an offensive, schematic standpoint, couldn't stop really any aspect of Alabama's offense from moving the ball and at least establishing a strong offensive tempo. Mac Jones had 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. Devontae Smith had 3 touchdowns. Najee Harris had 125 yards. Yeah, those are 3 of the top 4 or 5 players in the country and all received significant numbers of Heisman votes, but they couldn't stop them from moving the ball. But the fact that they held Alabama to 31 points and kind of stopped some certain drives after Alabama got going, I think is impressive. So it felt like a blowout. It probably should have been a blowout, but I think Notre Dame deserves a little bit more credit than they've been getting for this game because, yeah, they're the 4th best team in college football. They're just not like the top 3. They're better than the next 3, but they're not as good as the 3 above them.
Yeah, I just want to add, when we did our show last week, I said the only chance Notre Dame has in this game is if they have the ball for 40 minutes and they just keep the ball out of Alabama's hands. Well, I think Alabama and Nick Saban heard what I said, and they said, let's go with what Blake's doing. And MJ's calling me right now, but she should know better that I'm doing the greatest show ever right now. But Alabama, I think the main reason they didn't hang 70, I know I put 70 here, but they weren't going to score 70. I think we all expected them, like myself, to score at least 40, maybe 50 points or something like that. The entire second half, I don't have the play drives in front of me, but Alabama was legit just running that clock. I don't know how much they were up by at halftime. I want to say maybe it was 20 21-24, something like that. I'm sure Brady's going to look it up. But they were just playing keep away from Notre Dame in that entire second half. I mean, they were just running the ball. They were holding it. I mean, that Nick Saban's a genius for doing that. And I think that's the reason why it wasn't more of a blowout. Josh said it perfectly. It felt like a blowout just because you knew right away Notre Dame didn't even really have a chance. Even when Notre Dame cut I think it was like 14-7 at one point. Notre Dame was only down by a touchdown. You just knew that Notre Dame was kind of out of it. And I said it. They needed to get some crucial turnovers. They needed like a pick six or a fumble recovery to get into the red zone. Things didn't go their way. Notre Dame didn't play awful by any means. Well, I mean, their offense just seemed non-existent. When they were going high tempo, it seemed like everything was going their way. And I don't know why they didn't do that more often. I get, run the ball with Kyron Williams, but it just seemed like it wasn't really working. The defense was good. I thought they played surprisingly well. It's just Lyle, he hit it a few weeks ago. That was the perfect thing is there's God level, that is Alabama, Clemson, and now Ohio State. There is really, really good level, which is usually Notre Dame, Oklahoma, maybe another team. And it's just that Notre Dame, they're always that one team that just gets screwed by losing in the first game when, again, they're not a bad team. It's just that's how it goes. Now, if there was like an 8 or 16 team playoff, Notre Dame, I feel like wouldn't get as much hate because they'd constantly be winning 1 or 2 playoff games to get to that Final Four. It's just, again, the fact that with Oklahoma, there's always that team that has to lose to the God level team, but still a hell of a season for Notre Dame. Unfortunately, no more Ian Book, but Notre Dame, they definitely have some good things going their way, especially now with good old Jack Cohn heading to South Bend to take. If Jack Cohn's the quarterback that leads Notre Dame to the national championship and wins it, oh boy.
Honestly, like this kind of just feels like a Notre Dame move to bring in Jack Cohn. Like, I'm sorry, Lyle, this just feels like it's going to be like another Tommy Rees.
Yeah, I was like thrilled when I saw it. I was actually wondering if they were going to bring in a transfer just because like it didn't seem like they had much experience behind Book or anybody they loved this past year. And I was wondering maybe if they get Jarrett Garantano from Tennessee or somebody else, and it ended up being Cohn. I guess at the very least you have an experienced guy that plays next year. And if Tyler Buckner, who's like their most hyped up freshman quarterback in a long time, isn't ready to play, he can sit, but I guess it just creates some competition.
Hey man, Dylan Sterling Cole's out there and he's ready. He claims that he's what was that tweet he said? I'm like the best quarterback out there.
He's like, I know I'm great.
Yeah,
I know I'm great. Yeah. All right, well guys, we're gonna move on now to.
I watched a lot of football with him. That's the thing. I don't know.
Blake, I got your drives, by the way. Bama was up 21-7 at halftime.
See, it felt like it was like 30 or something, not 14.
Notre Dame had more drives than Alabama in this game. They had 10. Bama only had 9. The average starting field position was the same for both teams on their own 23-yard line.
Yeah, I wish it was like that in the Pac-12 championship, but that's beside the point. Go ahead.
I will say this. Notre Dame had a drive that was 8 minutes and 3 seconds. It resulted in a touchdown, yeah. They held control of the ball. They also had a 4.5-minute drive. Touchdown. Bama's 3 or 4 touchdown drives, the longest was 2 minutes and 36 seconds.
Yeah, it was nuts.
So Bama scored at will. Also, kind of impressive, 0 3-and-outs for either team.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
actually. Well, kind of what you just said, Brady. Like that's another thing that I think goes back to what I was talking about a couple minutes ago with how fast Alabama's offense was working in this game. I mean, the drives they created, a lot of them were long, yardage wise, which is why all of their top players racked up insane stats for this game. But then they only came out with 31 points. They had 4 touchdowns in the game. That was it. Najee Harris didn't have a rushing touchdown. It was just 4 passing for Mac Jones. 3 of them were to Devontae Smith. It seemed like Notre Dame couldn't contain them because the defense was always on the field, but then kind of started to slow down drives later in the game or later in the drive. Things started to stall for Alabama. I don't know. So like it was like, I don't know. I just really don't think there's any other way to put it other than Notre Dame just didn't have it.
It's kind of hard to stop a 5-play, 97-yard drive.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are. It's hard to stop that. Bama's touchdown drives were 79, 97, 84, 62, and 47. So they were all, pretty big drives except for the 47 one. But starting in their own territory almost every time is something, it's fairly normal to stop when you let up 4 touchdowns from there. It's tough.
Well, before we move on really quick, I mean, I feel like we can't wrap this up or talk about this without talking about Najee Harris's hurdle. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, this game's over. Like, in my head, as soon as he did that, I was like, this game's over. Like, I was like, this game's over. As soon as he leaped over the defender. I was like, that's it.
It's just like one play that's not like a defining moment in the game. I mean, it was a defining moment, but not like a win or lose defining moment in the game that kind of seals it for you. I remember 5 years ago now, our freshman year when ASU played U of A, and U of A had 3 wins or whatever it was, and Zane Gonzalez hadn't missed a field goal all year. And in the first minute of the game, he shanked a field goal that would have missed from 10 yards away. And I just thought, game 0-0, that's the game. No
I knew
way.
it was game when Najee Harris was like Megan Rapinoe.
Yeah, just karma. All the good mojo was flowing to Alabama.
Yeah.
All right, guys, time to talk briefly about some other bowl games. We had a super chat earlier from our man Stephen Smith. I don't think I can find it because it was too long ago, but he wanted to know pretty much our thoughts on Dan Mullen's comments following the Orange or was it Orange Bowl? Was that the one between Oklahoma, Florida? I can't remember.
Yes.
Where Dan Mullen pretty much came out and said, "Oh, the reason we lost is because we didn't have to play. We were actually under the amount of scholarships, but we came out there and we wanted to do it anyway." But guys, yeah, Oklahoma, they did something that was illegal in a lot of states to Florida. Granted, Florida had essentially all of their weapons out. Kyle Trask, he got benched because he threw 3 picks in the first quarter. Just overall, the one I wanted to talk about more was the Peach Bowl, but just again, this one. Granted, Florida was out a lot, but Oklahoma. I mean, this is kind of one of the reasons why I think the playoff does need to expand to like 8 at least, because Oklahoma the last month and a half, ever since they went 1-2, they've been playing like one of the best teams in college football. And even if Florida would have had, Kyle Pitts, even if they would have had some of their other key weapons, I just don't think anyone would have been stopping this Oklahoma team defensively. They've been fantastic. And Spencer Rattler's been a different quarterback the last 2 months, but I guess it's tough to say what are your takeaways considering this wasn't a true Florida team and it's not what the matchup should have been. But overall, just thoughts on this bloodbath between Oklahoma and Florida.
I've got something very quickly about this game that went totally under the radar, but is such a thing I would love, and it is. This is the Orange Bowl, played in Florida, right? Where oranges are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere. The oranges they gave out after the game still had the stickers on them. They were sun-kissed oranges grown in California.
Yeah.
How do you mess that up?
California.
How do you mess that up?
I don't know, man.
Go ahead.
Our oranges are better. I don't know. I mean, I thought that all season long Florida was that team on the outside. And this was kind of a strange bowl season and, time off that some teams had and some teams didn't have. Ultimately, I thought that Florida was a good team. I think that Dan Mullen made a lot of excuses over the course of their past 3 games. I mean, they lost 3 straight games and twice barely fell in the rankings. I don't know. I mean, Oklahoma was in good form, as they say in European soccer. Oklahoma was in great form, but not once did I think this could be a playoff team. Not until the end of that game did I think, all right, like maybe they could have been a playoff team. I did not think OU was a playoff team. I didn't think they were anywhere close to being a playoff team. And look, like I just think that when you have teams in the SEC and even in the ACC this past year that you could say were maybe on the outside of the playoff or maybe on that bubble, I just thought that they deserved more respect than Oklahoma did. I mean, congratulations, Skip Bayless, on going off about how Oklahoma's so good when they dropped 50 points on 1-win Kansas. Like, that's great. That's also a great win for an FCS team.
Steven's able to confirm it was the Cotton Bowl, not the Orange Bowl.
Orange
it was
Bowl,
so long ago. It was so long ago, we can't remember. I just, for whatever reason, thought it was the Orange Bowl. It just felt like an Orange Bowl kind of game. Cotton Bowl was
A&M, North Carolina.
That was another good game. But thank you, Stephen, for the clarification. But yeah, I mean, I could have gone my whole life thinking that was the Orange Bowl between Florida and Oklahoma, but it wasn't. Continue, Josh. I just had to throw that up there.
Yeah, I just think I think hindsight's 2020. I just think that Oklahoma gave no indication of being a playoff team during the season, and I would not have changed the playoff. And even if it was a 16 playoff, it was an 18 playoff. Yeah, absolutely, I would have put them at 8. But I just don't think that even in a 16 playoff, I don't know if they would have gotten in. Hindsight's 2020. At the end of the season, I'd probably be putting them a top 6 team easily. But going into that game, I just don't think they gave any indication of being. Of going off the way they did. I never would have expected that. But yeah, Florida didn't have it. Kyle Trask didn't have it. I think it's good for him, and it's justified that the Heisman voting took place before that game, obviously, because he deserved to be there. He deserved the recognition. He just didn't have it that game. But yeah, the excuses from Dan Mullen are, I mean, they're comical at this point, and they're expected after every game. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents on the game, but credit where credit's due. I thought Oklahoma played a hell of a football game.
I mean, I do think this game goes a lot differently if Florida has all their guys, and maybe Kyle Trask plays better as a result. I can't say if Oklahoma loses, I mean, a 35-point win, I'm not going to sit here and say they would have lost. But again, you literally had nobody to throw to. It's a lot different when you have Kyle Pitts out there, who's maybe the second best pass catcher in the country behind Devontae Smith, then Kadarius Toney too, along with 2 starting defensive backs on the defensive side of the ball. I think this game goes a little differently if Florida doesn't have all those guys out. But look, Oklahoma trended upward all season long after the first handful of games, and they look really, really good. Again, this is a bigger picture thing, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in the offseason. But what Oklahoma showed the last, the second half of the year, there's no reason to think they won't be in the playoff next year. And again, I'm sitting here hoping there's a lot more parity in college football in the coming years, and next year's playoff isn't just Bama, Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State. As we sit here right now, I don't really have any reason to believe it won't be those 4 teams. I hope I'm wrong in 12 months, but that's just kind of the bigger picture takeaway I had from this game. But yeah, with Oklahoma, Spencer Rattler, 2 losses.
I think what Dan Mullen was trying to do in this game is what Lincoln Riley did to Spencer Rattler earlier in the year. Is you start off the game, you have all this hype, and then you play like garbage. All right, we're going to bench you for a series or 2. You come back, you play really well. It's just get your mind right. You're not benching you. We're just taking you out for a minute. I think that's maybe what Dan Mullen tried to do against Oklahoma. It didn't work at all. What we saw from Florida in the regular season was not what we saw from Florida a week and a half ago. And you guys, Lau brought up a good point. If they had receiver 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the game, yeah, it'd probably be different. We saw what Justin Fields was like without Chris Olave. All right, you take away Chris Olave and maybe you take away Trey Sermon. What's Justin Fields like now? You take away Toney, you take away Pitts for Trask. What's he like now? So you take away all the weapons, the chemistry, everything just wasn't there for Florida. I think Rattler played really well. I think he showed promise. He had all the hype going in, had a bit of a rough patch to start the year, but I think this is an upward trending result for Spencer Rattler and the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah. I mean, even in the last month and a half, 2 months, they had the stat on the screen where Oklahoma's defense, they were like top 5, top 10 in every major statistical category in regards to defense. So that's been the problem for Oklahoma over the last few years, but their defense really turned it around again. A reason why it'd be kind of fun to see an 8-team playoff or something like that, where you have Oklahoma who's been playing like one of the hottest teams in the last month and a half. So they've been playing hotter than I thought. And I'm not saying that they would beat, Alabama if it was a 1-8 matchup, but again, if Oklahoma matched up with Notre Dame in like a 6-3 matchup, or maybe somehow they played Clemson in a 2-7 matchup. Again, anything can happen, but overall, great season for Oklahoma. The one other game that I do want to touch up on before we transition to some other stuff is the Peach Bowl featuring Georgia and Cincinnati. If you watch this game, it was heartbreaking because Cincinnati played like the better team for 59 minutes and 50 seconds of this game. They were the better team. They lost by 1 point because, unfortunately, Luke Fickell, although he was a great coach all season, the way he managed that final drive was just idiotic on his part. I get you want to just completely end the game by throwing it there on 3rd down, but with no timeouts for Georgia, I think it was like there was a minute and a half left on the clock, and instead of just running the ball, and even if you're stuffed, it was 3rd and 1. You need to get 1 yard, get the first down, but instead they opt to throw it. They would have punted it to Georgia with 30 seconds left, and Georgia would have had to drive down the whole field. Instead, they had a minute and a half left. They kick a game-winning 53-yard field goal, and Cincinnati loses by 1 point. Again, heartbreaking because Cincinnati, they wanted to prove that they could hang with the big dogs, which they did. Everyone's going to look back that watched the game and said Cincinnati, they should have won this game. So I think Cincinnati proved to a lot of people that a group of 5 team, we've seen this in years past with a group of 5 teams, that they can hang with the big boys. But Cincinnati, again, Georgia's one of those teams we've talked about. They've been playing some of the hottest football in the country over the last month, where if you were to put them against maybe like a Notre Dame, put them against, like a Clemson, how would things look? JT Daniels has turned them around completely, but It really sucks seeing Cincinnati lose this game, but I do think it is a silver lining that they proved and that they showed that they can hang with the big boys. And had Cincinnati made the college football playoff, who knows how it would have fared against Bama Clemson, but they showed that they're more than capable of at least being respect. I mean, the fact that the committee kept dropping them rankings was an absolute joke. So they proved the committee was disrespecting them, and that Cincinnati is a top 8, top 10 team in the entire country, I think.
Yeah, honestly, I think my takeaway from even after that game, looking back, like I said earlier, like hindsight's 2020. This isn't really how I feel about this game. I do genuinely think Cincinnati is the better team and was the better team in the game. But the fact of the matter is, they got outcoached and they got outclassed at the end of the game, and Georgia deserved to win. So it's one of those rare situations where you have a team that played like they should have won, played like they deserved to win. They did deserve to win, but then they lost. But the other team also deserved to win because they were the better team by the end. I mean, it's just the whole game. I thought that Cincinnati was the better team. And at the end, Georgia outcoached him. And credit to Kirby Smart, credit to Georgia for making that defensive stop and then driving down the field. And look, like, I don't think that this should not be like the black spot on Cincinnati's season. I think that they deserve to be undefeated. They were undefeated in the regular season. And when it came down to it, they blew it at the end. They got outcoached at the end. And also, with all of that happening, dude hit a 53-yard game-winning field goal.
Mm-hmm.
That is really impressive. And that's why Georgia took it away at the end. So I'm not saying it's a fluke that Georgia won, but like, that should not be a black spot on this season for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a great year. I mean, and they really did. It just came down to one poor piece of clock management from Cincinnati's part. And like you said, they hit a great field goal, 53 yards. That's certainly no chip shot at any level. So credit to Georgia. It was a really good game overall. And Georgia, like you guys talked about, I mean, I think they finally found their guy. And I talked about this a few shows ago, I think when the first rankings came out, that they just have to find a quarterback. It's that simple. You can't throw Stetson Bennett out there. And JT Daniels is proving to be that. I mean, he's been great ever since he's been healthy and he's been able to play for Georgia. Their biggest key is George Pickens, who is a phenomenal wide receiver, was not involved like anywhere close to as much as he should have been at the beginning of the year. And they didn't have a quarterback that was good enough to get him the ball as much as he should have been. This guy needs 10, 12, 15 targets a game. JT Daniels has been giving him that. He had a couple of huge games to end the year, and as a result, Georgia played phenomenally as the season went on, including in this game. Pickens in this New Year's Six Bowl, in this Peach Bowl, was a huge reason for Georgia winning the game. So credit to Georgia. It looks like they figured some things out. And for both teams, especially Cincinnati, they had great years.
There was a downfield shot to Pickens in the game, and the ball is in the air. I'm like, he's got it. He was, I think, maybe double covered. He got it. Great play by Pickens. He's, like Lyle said, I'd put him in the maybe the Kadarius Toney type player. Just can ball out. For this game, though, it doesn't matter how much you lead during the game, as long as you lead in the last minute and you lead at the end of the game. That's all that matters. Luke Fickell, I don't want to say he got out coached. I think he just may have, no pun intended, got outsmarted at the end of the game. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. But I think, this is such a bright spot for Cincinnati and such a great recruiting pitch. They were in a New Year's Six Bowl. They competed. They played it. They just couldn't close. Whatever. Who cares? It's big recruiting for a non-Power 5 school. So I think it's going to be really fun to see what Cincinnati does over the next few years. And I'm really looking forward to week 3 next year. We get IU Cincinnati next year, boys. So it's going to be a good one there in week 3 of hopefully the college football season scheduled as is.
Well, I think Cincinnati also plays Notre Dame, right, Lyle? Aren't they matched up next year?
Let me look. They might be.
I think I heard something.
Put them in the Big Ten.
Cincinnati's got a good schedule next year. They play some good opponents, I think. So, yeah, overall, it is a drag because, like I said, I thought they were the better team for the most part. So, unfortunately, they couldn't close. We've all been there before, boys. It's tough to close all the time, but it is what it is. Guys, speaking of history, let's talk about Devontae Smith.
They play IU and Cincinnati, both away games. I'm sorry, IU and Notre Dame, both away games.
There you go. So Cincinnati have a chance to pick up some wins next year and move there, guys. Before we move on to some national championship talk, we're going to save the coaching changes for a week or two because just not enough time because we still got to get to the Natty preview plus a Q&A. Plus, I just want to get everyone's thoughts on this. I personally didn't think we'd see this in our lifetime again. Pretty much the Heisman became a quarterback award. Maybe every now and then you get a running back that's deserving of winning the award, but Devontae Smith became the first wide receiver since 1991, since Desmond Howard won. First in our lifetime. I know it's hard as that to believe, guys. I have not seen a Heisman Trophy winner that is a wide receiver in my lifetime. The fourth ever wide receiver to win the Heisman. And again, it's become such a quarterback-driven award. We all kind of assumed that Devontae was going to win the award because he was gaining momentum. His odds were like a minus 500 leading into Heisman week. He comes down with the award. So just what are overall your thoughts on just a wide receiver pretty much doing what we all thought was impossible for the last 10, 15, 20 years or so?
Well, I think it is remarkable. I didn't think we'd see it again. And I did not think we would see it this year. Like you said, like our little lower third says, first wide receiver to win the Heisman in 30 years since Desmond Howard, first non-quarterback to win it in 5 years. And it's, for the most part, it's been a quarterback award. Like you said, I think it's really good for the sport to have a wide receiver win it this year. And especially moving forward, it doesn't reflect that on the Heisman odds for next year when it says at the bottom, like the worst odds just literally say any defensive player and then the odds. So I think that's interesting. But look, I sent you guys this in the group chat and we kind of had a discussion about it, which if for people that haven't caught on yet, most of what we talk about on the show is things that we mention in our group chat and then discuss on the show. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised not that Devontae Smith won the Heisman this year, because as I've said, it's an MVP award. If you take that player off the team, it's a different team. Take Lawrence off Clemson, you've got Uiagalelei. You take Mac Jones off of Alabama, you've got Bryce Young still throwing to Devontae Smith. And if you take Kyle Trask off Florida, I think that's kind of a different one because I think he was vital to that team, but he was missing a lot of pieces around him by the end of the season. Devontae Smith, if you take him off that team, Mac Jones is going to throw the ball to somebody, but they're missing a vital piece of that offense, an explosive piece of that offense, and they would not have done what they've done to Notre Dame and to Florida these last couple of weeks and what they did all season without Devontae Smith. What I will say is I'm surprised that not that he won it, but that he was the Alabama receiver to do it. Mm-hmm. Just because you look at some of the Alabama receivers we've had in the past. And, as a guy who grew up watching USC football, I'm going to say that SC's, as of, the last 15 years, wide receiver but Alabama deserves that title. The guys that have come through Alabama in the last 8 years alone, just at the wide receiver position, have been remarkable. And I think that if you look at what Devontae Smith did this year and his numbers this year compared to years past, I think were more versatile wide receivers at Alabama. I think that there were bigger and faster wide receivers at Alabama, and that's saying something that didn't get this type of recognition. So it's a testament to what Devontae Smith did, but also I do think Jalen Waddle getting hurt kind of played a role in his elevated position in the offense. I mean, if you look at what Alabama's wide receivers did last year, it took Devontae Smith and Henry Ruggs to equal the number of receptions that Devontae Smith had this season. 2 of them to equal what he had this season. And he has the number 2 wide receiver in terms of receptions on this Alabama team this year was John Mechie, who had 47 catches. Devontae Smith had 105. It's insanity what he did this year, and his statistics are absurd, especially for a wide receiver getting the recognition that he got. I'm just surprised that of all of the players that have come through Alabama in recent years, like Jerry Jeudy was there last year, that it was Devontae Smith to win it, and I think that's just a testament to how good he was this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable what he did, and it's too bad that this is a season where Alabama's not going to get a full slate of 15 games, because I'd love to see what Devontae's numbers are in a 15-game season, because these are numbers that you shouldn't see in a 15-game season. 105 catches, 1,641 yards, 20 touchdowns, and he's still got a game to go. I mean, he would have surpassed 2,000 yards for sure. I'll take a little bit of a different angle on this, because Josh talked a lot about why he deserved the award and why he was really the MVP of that Alabama team, because he is. I think it's pretty cool, kind of the path he took, and the fact that he came back for his senior year. Because look, I talk about a lot, like when guys have a draft stock that is any bit high, if they're projected to go in the first round, it's like, well, don't take the risk of getting hurt. It's like, just go. DeVonta Smith, after last year, was projected to be a first round pick. And when he announced he was coming back to school last year after going for 1,256 yards and 14 touchdowns last season, I'm thinking to myself, like, what are you doing? Like, do you want to win a national championship? In your freshman year, you lived out every single kid's dream that they perform and act out in the backyard by catching a national championship clinching touchdown. You had 3 phenomenal years. You were under Coach Saban. You played with a bunch of great players. Like, just go. He comes back, and I say, well, what are you doing? It's pretty cool to see him come back for his senior year and really use his senior year to elevate himself, because, you know, what gets forgotten a lot these days is that's really what college football used to be about. And I think he kind of embodies that in this season and this run that he's had as a whole, because he came back. He's been unbelievable. He's been the most valuable player in college football. And now he's going from the end of the first round to people compare him to a guy that used to don the same gear that Brady has on right now, and Marvin Harrison. Who in the world thought a year ago we'd say DeVonta Smith? Oh yeah, like, he compares to one of the greatest receivers of all time. It's pretty cool that he came back for his senior year, had a year like this, wins the Heisman, first wide receiver to do it in 30 years. And was this, hey Lyle, I don't know about you, but I dreamed of drilling the game-winning coffin corner punt in the national championship. I did not dream of nailing a punt inside the 1. I got to tell you what, when I used to play football in the backyard as a kid, I didn't practice punts. I practiced throwing and catching. I don't know about you guys. Maybe I'm an outlier here, but I didn't practice punting.
But no, it already comes in with the comment of the show. We're not even at the Q&As yet.
But no, just to wrap it up, I think it's cool for Smith. And to throw Mac Jones and Najee Harris into that mold too, they were the same way. I mean, Najee Harris was a huge recruit. He underperformed for a long time. He used his senior year to elevate himself. Same with Mac Jones, who had to wait around a really long time. But for DeVonta, pretty cool. I never thought we'd see a wide receiver win, and he did it.
And he just won the Maxwell Award too.
Yep.
No surprise.
And the Biletnikoff. There you go. Anyways, the one thing I'll say about this, I'll keep it very, very short, is I totally get it and get why it happened, but it sucks that his parents weren't there with him when he won the award and they were in a different spot. I get why they're keeping everybody isolated before the national championship, but it's like the night. Like, that sucks.
I didn't realize until he won the award that he was literally sitting next to Mac Jones the entire time.
The Heisman,
They had the same background.
I didn't notice or realize.
The Heisman Trust sent a trophy to each location. And Reese Davis had. So there were just 4 Heisman trophies.
No, this is what they should have done. They should have sent each one of the 4 finalists a huge box. Like a huge box. And say, all right, guys, now's the time. Everyone open your box. And they show everyone opening their box, and it's
like
something
10,000 packing peanuts in it too, so it's all over the place.
Without the Heisman.
For all the losers, it was just a giant anvil.
Right.
Because that thing's heavy too. It's just an anvil.
Pounds. It's 25 pounds.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, I mean, yeah, I think Lyle hit it perfectly. The fact that we're not seeing a full season out of him, because normally in a normal year, this would be a 15-game season. I think he's going to officially play 13 games. I think they've played 12 games so far. Not to mention, I think he had 1 game against Kentucky where I don't know if he just wasn't getting targeted or they're already up by 40 after the first 3 minutes, but he had like 3 catches for 40 yards or something like that. So you essentially take that game out. This is like an 11-game season, 12-game season for DeVonta Smith. He set the Alabama record for receiving yards. He's already set the SEC. Well, he's tied Jamar Chase for the SEC record for most receiving touchdowns in a season, and he's going to finish a few catches short of Amari Cooper for the most receptions in a single season in Alabama history. So again, I think the fact that there wasn't really a quarterback that really blew everyone out of the water. Kyle Trask was good, but the fact that Florida lost a couple of games, Mac Jones was good, but he was good because he had, DeVonta Smith. So take this in, soak it in, because I don't think we're going to see a wide receiver win again anytime soon, but maybe by a wide receiver winning it, people are going to say, hey, let me vote for a wide receiver right now. I just want to say this. I did tweet this out to the 5 voters out there that voted Ian Book first place for your Heisman ballot. Retire, never watch college football again, and move to a different country.
I just want to say that's Blake saying that. We don't all agree. We're all just here.
Oh, please. Please. Back me up. I get it. I get Ian Book.
No, I agree. I just don't
how can
somebody
anyone
not watch college football again and retire.
I got no problem someone voting for Trevor Lawrence. I got no problem someone voting for Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, Najee Harris, even like Breece Hall, who was probably the best running back all year. Maybe even Justin Fields, even though this was prior to what he did. Actually, no. Well, Justin Fields didn't do anything to warrant a first place vote. No, you're done, Justin Fields. I'm sorry. Heisman vote gone. No, you're done. I'm sorry. I just had to get that out before. Guys, any parting comments before we move on to our what the title of this video is? National Championship Preview.
Oh, I'll save that for the national championship then. Never mind.
Yes.
All right, guys. So we got an Alabama-Ohio State national championship. The first time these two teams have met in the national championship, I believe, ever, especially in the college football playoff. Alabama currently.
Wait. Did they not win in the championship, I guess? I was going to say they played in the playoff in 2014, the first year.
Yeah, this is the first time that they've met in a championship game, I believe, ever. So, guys,
Fourth time they've ever played.
Alabama's currently an 8-point favorite over Ohio State. Over-under is 75, which I believe is the highest over-under in national championship history. There's a lot of angles we can cover with this, guys. So whoever wants to take over, just talk about the game, matchup, anything you want. Yeah, you guys can take over because it's a full Alabama-Ohio State preview for the next 10, 15 minutes or so.
I'll start with this, and then we can move on to the actual game. Why in the world was the playoff not put in a bubble? Why were they not all in the same place? I don't know, because now this game might get delayed.
It's just common sense at this point. It's common sense at this point. I don't get it.
COVID issues at Ohio State.
His ribs hurt.
Oh, my ribs.
Well, it didn't seem to affect him the first game.
It helped him, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was just poor scheduling on their part. But no, for the actual game, I didn't think. I mean, if you had told me 3 weeks ago Ohio State-Alabama would be the national championship matchup, I would have thought maybe Ohio State squeaked out a lucky win against Clemson and Bama will run them out of the water. After watching Ohio State beat Clemson, I think this game can stay close. I think Alabama wins. I just think that offensive trio, Mac, Najee, Devontae, it's just going to be too much in the end for that Ohio State defense, who really hasn't been great all year. But I think this is going to be a fun game. I think we're going to see a lot of points because Bama's defense, when they played good offenses this year, has not been great. I think both offenses are going to kind of go off, and there's a ton of amazing skill players on both sides of the ball. And I think this can go into the fourth quarter as a close game, and maybe Bama pulls away at the end. But I think it's talent galore, points galore, and overall, I think it's going to be a really fun national title game.
Speaking of talent galore, we didn't mention this at all, but there is a strong possibility that Jalen Waddle could be in this game as well.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that'd be amazing.
Which is what I say dangerous. Now, I hate admitting Blake is right. I hate it. There's nothing I hate more.
It's true.
But I have to. This is from a few weeks ago, Blake.
Oh, what do we got here? What do we got here? I don't even remember what I said.
2 guarantees. We're pulling some inside the NBA stuff. You said Bo Nix will never be a star of the week again.
Okay.
Whatever. You also said Alabama will make the championship. So, Blake, congratulations. You got 2 guarantees that were correct.
All right.
This year.
Well done.
Josh, take it away. I have nothing to add because I think we know what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a close game like Lyle said, but it's going to come down to Nick Saban being Nick Saban and nothing else.
Yeah, I think it comes down to Ohio State's defense. I think what the offense showed us last game is that they can compete with anybody in college football, especially if Justin Fields is doing what he's capable of doing. And like I said, last game, ignore the interception. It was a bad interception. He bounced back from it. Ignore that interception. That's the best I've ever seen him. From the way he led the team, from his athleticism, not just his stats, just from his play on the field, I thought he was remarkable. So I'm interested to see what Ohio State's defense does. And here's something that Pro Football Focus put out today, which I think is interesting. And it's going to be the wide receiver DB matchup that I'm most interested in watching. And obviously it involves Devontae Smith, leads the country with 20 touchdowns, but he's going up against Shaun Wade. And for Ohio State, his 6 touchdowns allowed is 3rd most in the country. And I mean, he hasn't had a bad year by any means, but this is a guy that I thought was going to be a little bit better coming into this season. And I thought that they were going to really look for him to step up in the secondary, considering how many guys they lost last year in the secondary at Ohio State. So I think this is an interesting matchup to watch for. kind of curious. I mean, it's not something that, at least to my knowledge, I'm not a coach. I'm not a defensive back in college football. I'm more of, I'm a play-by-play guy and I'm a fan. So like, I don't look at the game super analytically like some people do, like BK might. But it seems like it's far more common in the NFL to have a defensive back shadow a specific wide receiver, and it's not that common in college football. Mm-hmm. I'm interested to see what happens in this game on how Ohio State plans on defending against Devontae Smith. This isn't Alabama versus Kentucky week 5. Like, this is the national championship we're talking about. So it's not like, all right, well, let's try to contain Devontae Smith. I mean, whatever. I'm not saying that Kentucky would just think, oh, this game doesn't matter, so we're not going to do whatever it takes to guard Devontae Smith. But this is the national championship we're talking about. So I'm interested to see what Ohio State has planned for Devontae Smith. Of course, if they figure out a way to lock him down, Alabama has more than capable wide receivers, and Jalen Waddle's supposed to be back, so who knows? But I'm interested to see what happens. So I think the game comes down ultimately to Ohio State's defense, because I expect Alabama's defense to be good, but stretched thin going up against Justin Fields and Trey Sermon and all the weapons they have at wide receiver. So for me, it comes down to what Ohio State's going to do to stop Devontae Smith and to stop Najee Harris too, but especially the Heisman winner, Devontae Smith.
I will say this, and I'm not comparing them head on at all. Whatever Ohio State did defensively to cover Ty Freifogel when they played Indiana, do the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Do the opposite of that. If you let a good receiver like Ty Freifogel go off for, I think he had 2 touchdowns and 100-something yards in that game. All right, cool. Do the opposite of that. You're going up against the Heisman winner, the best receiver we've seen in college football in maybe the last 5-10 years, arguably, and a guy who is a game wrecker. I think that's what you have to do is, Josh, you brought up a great point, is will they shadow him? Will they spy him? Are they going to bring a safety to help? What are they going to do? The addition of Waddle is going to throw so many curveballs now to Ohio State. With an already risky secondary, you bring in a guy, we talked about this a few days ago, is Waddle could just be a decoy, but you still have to think in the back of your mind is he has the ability to go off. We saw what he can do. So you need to have this as, all right, you're going to have, I'm guessing you're going to have a guy play his zone coverage defense and have them play there, but you're going to go to man. You're going to have some shadowing on Devontae Smith. You just have to. That's how it's going to be. And I have a feeling the game is going to start like this. All right. I'm not writing this on a post-it note because I'm not guaranteeing this. I feel like this will be reminiscent of the 2007 Super Bowl, Colts versus Bears. Devin Hester returns the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and then it just goes Colts way the rest of the way. I feel like Ohio State is going to get either an opening kickoff touchdown or a big play first drive, and they're going to think, oh, we got something going, and then Alabama's going to happen. That's my bold prediction for this game.
Do you guys really think Waddle's just going to be a decoy? I guess I don't see it like that. I see it like if he's going to play, I think he's going to play. He might not return kicks and punts. They might be cautious with him in that way. But if he's on the field, I think he's out there to make a difference.
I do too, but it's going to be one of those things where you can't just ignore his presence on the field because he hadn't played all season long or a majority of the season.
Since October.
Yeah. One of you guys that controls the comments that we put on the screen, can we scroll up, and I want to put a comment in here from Troy at 6:01 p.m. on the West Coast for Blake if he's going to do it. And I think this is something that I've seen on social media too. He says, I actually wouldn't put weight on him. Banks is 6'1", 200. Devontae is 6 foot 166. And they could be very physical with him. That's something I've seen on social media too, depending on what Ohio State wants to do defensively and who they're going to prioritize. Because obviously if Waddle plays in this game, we've kind of said that, like what Brady said, theoretically you could use Jalen Waddle as a decoy if you really wanted to. But like Lyle said, like if he's going to play, he's going to play. So now you're really stretched thin, considering you've got a lethal weapon, basically. That's a movie on either side, basically. I knew Brady would laugh. It was an accident. But yeah, so now, like I said, they were stretched thin against Indiana, and I will say, I think Indiana has a very what's the word? Disrespected group of wide receivers this year. They really flew under the radar, but. Like, this is Alabama we're talking about, and this offense that we're talking about. So I think that's a concern moving forward. But I guess if you're Ohio State, you do have your options. It's just that the secondary was not as good as a lot of people expected them to be, even though they lost, 3 guys last year?
Yeah.
The secondary? Yeah.
Yeah, Okuda, Fuller. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they lost a lot, but they replenished. And some of these guys do have a lot of experience, and I just thought that they would be better. But they have their options. It's just Alabama's that good.
I want to throw this up before I get to my thoughts. So Connor, he's changed his name to pun intended, and Ohio State shouldn't be in this game because they didn't lose to Virginia Tech this year. So hey, there's a reason for the College Football Playoff Committee.
How many teams would be eligible to be in the championship if it was teams Virginia Tech beat?
Ooh, that's a good one, Brady. Connor's going to come for you on that one. So thanks for the donation, Connor. Thanks for that. Yeah, I don't think Jalen Waddle is going to be used as a decoy if he's able to play. I mean, he's coming off a pretty bad ankle injury, which I'm shocked he's able to, because I think it was middle of October, I want to say. So this is going to be a 3-month turnaround. I think Alabama's going to win this game regardless. But if they have Jalen Waddle out there, granted, he's not going to be 100%. I think Lyle's the one that said it. He's probably not going to be returning kicks and punts, which if he is, then oh boy. If Alabama wins or loses the coin toss and Ohio State's kicking off and Jalen Waddle's out there to return the kick, you know he's 100% fully healthy if he's going to be out there. I think if Jalen Waddle plays, I don't know what Ohio State can do, because this defense is not as good they've been. It's probably the worst defense Ohio State's had in a while. And you have an unstoppable force in Devontae Smith. Jalen Waddle, everyone kind of forgets because Devontae Smith was so good this year. Jalen Waddle, through the first 4 games of the season until he got injured, his numbers were better than Devontae Smith's. Jalen Waddle's another guy where he's not going to be like a top 5, top 8 pick. A lot of people think Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase are going to be. There are people that think Jalen Waddle is going to be a top 15 pick, maybe even, kind of right near number 8, 9, 10 or so in the draft. So this is a really good receiver. Alabama's getting him back potentially. This offense is going to be, I think, impossible to stop. I think we might see what happened with Alabama and Notre Dame, where if Alabama's able to get a 14-point lead, kind of like in the third quarter, I wouldn't be shocked if they just stopped doing their 2 or 3 minute drives where they can easily score a touchdown and they chew clock and they want it to be a 6 or 7 minute drive, because Alabama, if they want to, they can have an 8-minute drive that is capped off with a Najee Harris rushing touchdown if they so please.
Mm-hmm.
So Ohio State, I said this earlier when we were talking about the Ohio State-Clemson game. I do think Clemson's the better team. Everything went Ohio State's way. Everything offensively was going their way. Everything defensively was going their way. This was Ohio State's best defensive game of the season, playing the best offense they'd played all year. And Clemson, they looked pretty bad. Justin Fields, he's not going to have 6 touchdowns this game. Trey Sermon, he's been fantastic, but is he going to rush for 200 yards again this week? I'm not exactly certain. So I just think Ohio State, I want to say it's disrespectful, giving them the +7, +8, whatever it is. But this is one of those things where I wouldn't be shocked if Bama comes out and they just blow Ohio State out of the water early on and they just run it down their throat. I want it to be a good game. My uncle and I were going to be at Circa watching this game. As of right now, we're actually leaning the under of 75 points just because I think asking both these teams to put up 40 is going to be a daunting task. But I think Bama, I think they're the best team. I'm not going to say they're as good as the LSU team last year, but I really do think this Alabama team is one of the best teams we've seen the last 5-6 years. I just don't see how anyone could beat them. I don't think it's going to be a close game. I think Bama's going to win by at least double digits, and that's how I expect it to go. Now, but with that being said, Ohio State's probably going to win by 21 now since I'm disrespecting them, but I think Bama's too good. And like I said, everything went Ohio State's way, and I just don't think they have it in them to have another game like that they did with Clemson.
Let's talk about one more matchup here, because I like that we're kind of focusing on specific matchups because we have so much time to preview one game. And let's go back to a guy we talked about a little bit earlier with Patrick Surtain, a guy who I think is the best defensive player on the field from either of these two teams in this game. Ohio State has 2 deadly wide receivers just like Bama does. They're not as good as Alabama's, but they're really good. And the question is, do you put Olave in matchups with Surtain, or is it Garrett Wilson? Because as we stand right now, Olave is probably their best receiver. Garrett Wilson has more home run speed and ability to get past the defense than Olave does. So I was trying to think about what's the better matchup for Ohio State there. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
It's a good question. I think you're right that Chris Olave is, I would say that he's probably their best receiver right now. So I just looked up the size for both of them. So Wilson's 6'1", 194. Olave's 6'1", 187. That's not much of a difference. And what's Surtain?
I think he's 6'1" or 6'2", I want to say.
Yeah, 6'1" maybe. So I don't think size is going to factor into it, but I would guess that I don't even know if that would be something that you would do strategically, maybe even at the start of the game, or maybe do a little bit of both. Maybe try to find that matchup, maybe try to line up and just see where the guy's going to go, especially for like the first drive of the game. Because like you said, Garrett Wilson seems like he has the more explosive and home run plays this year, which I think could ultimately come back and to bite Bama if Ohio State's going to win this game. But ultimately, I think Chris Olave is the better wide receiver. So I think it's kind of up for debate for me if I'm going into this game. If I'm Ohio State, I'm coming out with I wouldn't target anybody specifically on that opening drive. I'd kind of see what what Bama's defense wants to do and what matchups they prefer, and then maybe game plan from that first drive moving forward.
It's such a tough thing. We talked about this sort of a minute ago with, all right, what's the, what's Ohio State's secondary going to do to cover the two guys potentially on Alabama? Well, you take the same thing and you just reverse it. It's Surtain's such a dynamic defensive player. He's essentially, I'm not saying he's like, oh, he's the Devontae Smith of defense. He's the best defensive player Alabama has. And I think that's without question. So whatever they're going to do, I think we're going to see them start in a lot of zone defense for Alabama. And it's going to switch over to see, they could go to man, Josh, like you said a minute ago, is, all right, when they find that medium, is which one is he a better matchup for? You can see it in film all you want. You're like, I think I'll be a better matchup for this guy as opposed to him. But you can't know until you're actually sitting there face-to-face with the wide receiver. So I think we're going to start by seeing them roam around a bit, and then by the second half, you'll see him essentially lock on one of those receivers. And those are really good questions, Lyle. I think it's one of those things where it is Nick Saban. We see, a college defense is usually very simplified. They either run a man or a zone. They don't have schemes. They don't, do many disguises. That's where Bama is different than so many programs. They run an NFL-style defense where they're able to disguise their blitzes. They're able to disguise their coverages until the last minute. Their defensive players are so dynamic, so fast, so athletic that a safety can come down, show blitz, and then shoot back up into the coverage. So I think we're going to see a lot of movement on the defensive side of things before the play even starts. And we're going to see just all hell break loose for this Bama defense, which is the best in the country.
All right, guys. So if there's nothing else you all want to add, let's get to our Bama-Ohio State predictions. Again, unless there's anything else you want to talk about, add, anything like that, where we can get to our final predictions.
Sounds good.
All right. So, again, anyone can kick it off.
I'm going to take Alabama in this game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout per se. I'm going to go 41-28. I think it'll be roughly a 2-score game. I just think that ultimately I have too many concerns with Ohio State's secondary, not just on the season, in this game specifically. And I think Alabama's that good. So I don't think it's a blowout, but I think that Alabama is better, and I think that they are significantly better. So I'll say Alabama 40. I'll go 42-28. Give or take a field goal here or there,
Of course.
I'm going to go Alabama 38, Ohio State 31. I really think this is going to be close, and I think Alabama wins, but I think this is a good game.
I'm going Alabama 42-24. However, Ohio State does get out to an early lead. I think they're going to have a spark in the first quarter, and then it's going to sort of settle out, and Bama will regain control of the game. So I'm going 42-24 Alabama.
Yeah, this is one of those interesting ones because, again, Alabama can easily put up their 35, 45 points or something like that. It's just a matter of, do they do what they did against Notre Dame, where once they get kind of comfortable, once they get to a certain amount, again, if Bama's up by 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, does Nick Saban say, you know what, I want to play conservative, I want to run this clock down, or does Nick Saban say, we're Bama, we want to put a 50 on you guys? I'm not entirely sure. I think that they definitely probably get 35 again. I'm going to say they get 38. I'm going to go with Alabama 38, Ohio State 27. I think they win by at least 10. Like I said, I think they cover. This is going to be an exciting game, and this probably is one of the more anticipated, national championship games I think we've seen in recent memory, just because of overall the talent on the field, overall just how good both these teams are. So we have a clean Bama sweep across the board. Guys, I did notice all 4 of us, I did the math in my head, which is a little difficult to do. All of us had the under of 75 points, which I'm sure my uncle, if he's watching, he's going to love to hear that because that's the position I'm leaning. So there we go. Clean sweep, Alabama wins.
Didn't I? Did I have 7? No, I had 70. I had 70.
42-28.
I will say this: Troy just brought this up in the comments. I'm not going to put it up there because it's very quick, but it's a Big 12 ref crew for the national championship. If that has any indication on anything, how they'll let them play, if you want to take that into factor at all, Blake, while betting, it's a Big 12 crew.
I don't know now you're persuading me, Brady, knowing who the officiating crew is. I don't know. Is Buff Ref going to be there?
That's Brandon Cruz.
Buff Ref. All right, guys. So those are our full predictions. Again, it's going to be a great game Monday night. We're not wrapping up the show quite yet because it is time for the Q&A. So if you guys have any questions you'd like to ask us, it could be about the national championship, could be about the bowl games we saw, the playoff games we saw, anything I posted in the Twitter earlier, why Lyle prefers Qdoba over Chipotle. That's true, right, Lyle? I'm not crazy. You enjoy Qdoba more than Chipotle? Or is it just that one time we went there and you just said you enjoyed it?
Oh, I like both. I don't even think there's really a difference. At ASU, the Qdoba was the one that took the ASU money, so I would go there. But no, I think both are good. I don't have
some people in the replies were getting upset saying, how can anyone think Qdoba's better? But hey, Qdoba's pretty gas, I will admit. The one by me closed down about a year ago, so I'm upset. But Qdoba, don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on Qdoba. All right, guys, we're going to go to Twitter right now because Nick Saban wants to know our questions. I had fun with that one. A few questions here, guys. Then we'll move to some questions in the live chat. Again, if there's any comment you guys, any question you guys have, you guys can donate to the super chat. That way it comes up in a nice shiny color and helps us find your comment because there's a lot of comments going on right now. So again, if there's anything you'd love to hear our thoughts on, you guys can hit us up for as little as $1, $2. We've seen people throughout the show. They've done $5, $10 donations. So again, helps support the show, helps us answer your question. Before we get to those questions, let's head over to Twitter right now, guys. MC Mets 23. We're not going to give our full prediction, like our full, brackets. He wants to know NFL predictions. So, guys, Super Bowl matchup and who's coming out on top?
I'm going to go Packers. And, oh, man, who am I going to take out of the AFC? I think I'll go Packers, Chiefs, and I'll take the Packers.
The Chiefs have lost one game with all their starters on the field in the last calendar 13 months or something like that. If anybody's due to repeat, it looks them. I'm going to go Chiefs Packers too, but I'm going to take the Chiefs.
I'm tripling up on this one. I'm going Chiefs Packers. I think what we've seen from Aaron Rodgers this year is the greatest season we've seen from Aaron Rodgers, and it's still under the radar. I think the Packers are going to get it done. So I'm going to go Packers Chiefs, and I'm going with the Packers.
I've recently finally committed to watching the Pat McAfee show on a day-to-day basis, and his interviews with Aaron Rodgers
Tuesdays.
They're the greatest thing ever.
So good.
The fact that Aaron Rodgers is that show with Pat McAfee where he does this, it's fantastic, guys. I'm gonna go against the grain here with this one. Well, mainly because one, you guys are wrong. The Packers are not making the Super Bowl. It's going to be the New Orleans Saints for Drew Brees on his final hoo-ah ride because all the teams are going to say, you know what? We're going to be nice. We're going to let Drew Brees reach another Super Bowl, and the Saints are going to roll through. I'm going to go the Saints over the Bills. The Bills have been playing really good football. I mean, for the most part, I think the Chiefs are going to make it, but I think the Bills can do it, and I just want to be a little different. So Chiefs, or I'm going
Drew Brees and his 12 broken ribs. That team's winning it.
And Josh Allen maybe without his top two receivers.
No, I mean the Bills are really good. Like I wouldn't be shocked at all to see the Bills get in.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Saints over the Bills in regards to that one, guys. Kenny wants to know if Alabama wins the Natty on Monday night, how many times are we going to see Nick Saban crack a smile? I'm putting the over at 1.5. So are we taking the over or the under in that?
Over.
I'm going to take the over, but I think we should set the over at like 2.5. In which case, I would take the under.
I'll take the over. I mean, Saban's kind of like Belichick in this way. You never see Bill Belichick smile until he actually wins the title and hoists the trophy. Like that's the couple times a year you'll see him smile, like up on the podium or in his press conference or whatever. Saban's the same way. He'll crack a few smiles if he wins. I'll take the over.
I'm going with the over as well.
Yeah, I think we'll get the over, but I think it's going to be close. I think we're guaranteed that one. It's just a matter of, is that one going to be at the end when they win, or is he going to somehow crack one sometime? But let's go with the over because, always take the over unless you're betting on the points in the Natty. Guys, Joseph wants to know, what do you think about the Jim Harbaugh extension, which I think goes to like 2025? Which I think in the coming weeks when it's the offseason, we can go more in depth on all the coaches, all the moves, who's been fired, who's in new places. But I'm sure we'll talk about this one. But a quick thought on him getting extended another 5 years or so.
Dumb.
Well, what are you doing? What are you doing, Michigan? Yeah, that's a mistake.
Like, if you're not going to fire him, great. But to extend him 5 years, I mean, I read that and was like, what? Like, if he makes it all 5 years, in the last year of this extension, I will re-up the Jim Harbaugh costume on this show. All right, 5 years from now, you have my word. Write it down, Brady. Put it on your board. It'll sit there for 5 years.
Yes.
In 5 years, if he is still the head coach, I will come back and do the exact same costume again. There's just no chance.
I just don't get how some coaches keep their jobs this long. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, look, Harbaugh's had success in the NFL, and look, he had a little bit of success at Michigan, I guess, early on, but like he hasn't lived up to the standards like as a whole to this point. You can't beat your rival. They had a horrible year this year. I just can't believe they extended him. Like Josh said, it's one thing if you keep him for now, but extending him, that seems crazy.
Yeah, he is getting an extension. Meanwhile, Tom Herman got fired. He got an extension while USC is hanging on to Clay Helton, and I totally understand why they're doing it because SC was 6-0 in the regular season, and also why would you fire Helton and pay him all that money? But to extend Harbaugh, I think is extreme. I think it's baffling.
Hey, while we're on the topic of coaches, just super quick, please tell me you guys saw, speaking of the coaching carousel, that now with Steve Sarkisian gone after Monday as the Bama offensive coordinator, that Nick Saban's looking into Adam Gase and Bill O'Brien to fill the role.
They are going to lead that team to everything.
That's like the Bill O'Brien one. That one's bad, but it's like I wouldn't. How?
Adam Gase has been known as like a QB whisperer, so I guess
that's not even true.
Because it's a joke. Saban does it because it's a joke. Because at this point, he just wants to see if he can. It's like when you're watching Impractical Joker and they tell Joe to go do something because they won't think he'll do it, but then he'll do it, and then he keeps doing it over and over again just to be an ass.
Okay,
because they know he can.
Here's the thing with Adam Gase. His whole claim to fame is he was the OC for that 2013 Broncos team that was like one of the best offenses of all time. For all we know, Peyton Manning called all the plays. Like, how much did he even do on that team?
I could have brought that team to the Super Bowl. I mean, come on.
Yeah, like that. Yeah. Jim Harbaugh. No.
Every player that's under Adam Gase, when they escape him, they become like Ryan Tannehill, Kenyon Drake. Every player that's on the New York Jets next year is going to be a Pro Bowler. That's what's going to happen. That's why I'm saying draft Penei Sewell with your number 2 overall pick. Stick with Sam Darnold. Have a legitimate coach in there. Maybe trade up and bring in like Najee Harris or something. And the Jets are going to be good. I'm not saying they're going to be a playoff team. They'll win probably 5 or 6 games, but they'll be good once the Adam Gase is no more. No more. All right, guys. Michael wants to know, does Texas have the next great quarterback in Casey Thompson? Our man Sam Ehlinger officially declared he'll move on to the NFL, where he'll probably have a total of 0 career starts, but there's some talk that they might transition him to like a wide receiver, tight end, something like that. But does Texas have the next great quarterback in Casey Thompson? We saw what he did against Colorado. Granted, Colorado didn't game plan for him whatsoever. They had no footage really of him, so that's probably why he torched them. But he looked good in that bowl game against Colorado. Do you guys think that he could lead them to the promised land of being back?
No. I would say no. I think he'll be all right.
Anything to say about it?
I think he'll be all right. I think that Sark is a good. I think I don't want to say this. I think that Sark is a good offensive coach. I think things look like he was phenomenal at USC when he was the offensive coordinator. I mean, look at the products that SC produced those years and how good they were. So I think he's a good offensive coach. He was known as 7-win Sark for a reason. Like, congrats. He took UW from 0-12 to 7-5, which is impressive. But like consistently, 7-5 ain't great. And then to go to USC and to have such high hopes and to have one good season that was like 10 wins and then the next year just blow it and choke and then to get fired. And then somehow, like Cliff Kingsbury, after he left SC, he failed upward and was with the Falcons and then was at Alabama. Like, he's had offensive success, and especially after maybe a little bit of time to humble himself and get everything back on track after USC, I think he'd be good for this Texas offense. But realistically, I don't think this is a big, like,
hallmark move by Texas to bring in Steve Sarkisian. Like, good luck. I hope it works out. I just don't see these guys being a national power next year or the year after. I mean, we'll see what happens, but no.
I need more of a body of work on Thompson before I can say, is he the next great Texas QB? Like, we haven't seen it enough. Like, Ellinger's been the guy for the last 4 years. I know Thompson got a little bit of time recently, but like, I need more of a body of work to judge it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Sam Ehlinger can't lose 5 games to Oklahoma, becoming the first quarterback in Texas history to lose 5 games to Oklahoma. Guys, this is a phone-in from Connor, or should I say punt intended. If you could have ASU or USC or Indiana, or I guess even Notre Dame, play any non-traditional yearly rivalry games, who would you want to see them play? That would be Virginia Tech playing Tennessee every year, or with every third year at the Bristol Motor Speedway, back when they packed like 150,000 people there. So what would you like to see, guys? A non-traditional rivalry. I'll start with mine. I want ASU every year. They play the national championship winner. Whoever wins the Natty, ASU's playing them. That's just
that
how
wouldn't be a rivalry. I mean, like, if it's a different team every
year. I don't want a rivalry. I just want something every year to look forward to. I'm going against the grain. If in regards to rivalry, give me Hawaii, because that way every other year I can go to Hawaii if I want to see a game, or UNLV just so I can go to Vegas. But in regards to expanding this on this, I think I just want to see them play whoever wins the Natty every year, just cause.
I want to see ASU Syracuse every year, not only because that's possibly a free win, but it's the Journalism Bowl.
Yeah, the Journalism Bowl. I was gonna say I think ASU Boise every year would be fun, then just give the home team just a home field advantage that would just be absolutely insane. So ASU plays at Boise in December at the end of the year, and then Boise can come to Tempe in like August, like late August, first game of the year. I think that would be fun. But yeah, now that Lyles mentions it, like the Journalism Bowl would be great. And then for SC, like obviously you're not topping Notre Dame for SC. I would say Michigan or Ohio State, because USC's had such a storied bowl history against those two schools. But again, like, I think what makes those matchups between SC and Michigan and SC and Ohio State special is the fact that it's in a bowl game like the Rose Bowl. So I don't even know. I mean, I feel like I'll say Michigan just because I think that'd be fun.
I'm gonna go IU Louisville. They're only like an hour and a half away. IU and Louisville are actually closer than IU and Purdue. So I'm going to go IU Louisville because why, Lyle?
Oh, we don't have a pick 'em, do we? Because why not?
Why not?
There you go. So fun one there, guys. Our man Steven Smith wants to know, what are your thoughts on the Fiesta Bowl? A lot of people thought Oregon was going to win. Also, did the Big 12 change your perspective after going 5-0 in bowl games? Well, I thought that one a lot. I thought a lot of people thought Iowa State was going to win because Oregon wasn't deserving of being in the New Year's Six game. So, I mean, I'm not shocked that Iowa State ran away with them. But yeah, the fact that the Big 12, I like that he said this, went 5-0 in their bowl games. I think there was a show a few months ago that was titled, "Is the Big 12 the worst conference or worst Power 5 conference out there?" They went 5-0. They look great. The ACC, I think they lost essentially almost every game they played. That was an absolute joke. But guys, Big 12. Is the Big 12 the best conference in college football now? I think they are.
Not even close. Like, I do want to say
know.
that you can argue. We said Big 12. We said ACC. This year, obviously, it was the Pac-12, but also got to think the Pac-12 set themselves up to fail. It's plain and simple. They set themselves up to fail. I mean, look at the Big 10 outside of those top 3. The Big 10 was irrelevant this year outside of Ohio State, Indiana, and Northwestern for the most part. So yeah, I thought going 5-0 in bowl games is impressive. I just didn't I just thought that they were so hard to gauge this year because like Oklahoma was playing good football, Iowa State was winning games, but like wasn't super flashy about it. So you didn't know what to think about them. Texas, after starting terrible, was like better towards the end of the year. They were just hard to predict. Like, go back and look at what our record is in predicting Big 12 games this year. You've got to think that we were not very good. At least me, I was not very good at all. So yeah, it's impressive that they went 5-0, but I don't know. It was just a weird conference this year.
Look, like 5-0 is 5-0, but at the same time, Texas got to play Colorado, West Virginia played Army, Notre Dame played Alabama, Clemson played Ohio State. Like, come on. Like, I know the ACC didn't win any, but still, like, there were some tough. North Carolina played Texas A&M. Like, there were some tough games in that slate. look, I mean, the Big 12 is better. That's for sure, better than I thought they would be. But they need to be a little more relevant nationally to say like the Big 12's back in a sense.
Oklahoma's win was the impressive one.
Yeah, that one was. But yeah, this Fiesta Bowl game was just a little underwhelming. Like we said, I mean, Oregon shouldn't have been there. Iowa State, it was their game.
All right, guys, this one, it's not, he doesn't really word it like this. I just saw his comment. Dylan says, as a Texans fan, I've survived many of the worst years of the franchise. So Brian Hoyer consistently passed in the NFL, set through 1,000 J.J. Watt injuries. So this isn't really a question, but I've been seeing this today with the whole Deshaun Watson things. Where would you, I'm making the question. So Dylan, I'm taking your comment that was probably towards someone else, and I'm turning it into a Q&A question. Where would you guys like to see Deshaun Watson go? And what kind of trade do you think a team would need to make in order to get him on their team?
Let me make something clear here. Like, I don't know what's being thrown around out there, but what I saw Mina Kimes say this today, who I love. I think she's great.
Love Mina Kimes. She's awesome.
Oh, she's great. Whatever, like, your trade proposal is in your head for Watson, it's not enough. Like, this guy is 25. He's locked into a deal, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You're talking like 4 first-round picks if you're trying to trade for this guy. That's what a reasonable return is. Like, you better be willing to shop the farm if you're going to trade for this guy. Where would I like to see him go? I mean, to see him go to a place like Atlanta, if they're going to move on from Matt Ryan, you've got a bunch of good receivers there. That would be a place where he can probably thrive. I think that would be one potential place. I don't want to see this happen, but San Francisco is another if they really give up a big package, which maybe that would come full circle because they probably should have taken him in the first place back in 2017 instead of Solomon Thomas, but that's another where he'd probably thrive. So I think it's going to be a huge haul to try to trade for him. And where he'd succeed, I think those are 2 places where he could really thrive.
I would like to see the Rams go trade for him. Jared Goff for Deshaun Watson straight up.
Plus a second.
Oh, no, just straight up. I think that's fair.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there are so many different landing spots for him. You have to think of, all right, does somebody retire this year? Does somebody get traded? Does somebody become a free agent? I say that, all right, Blake, would you like him on the Saints? Yeah, you'd love him on the Saints.
Yes, I would.
Is that a realistic spot for him to go? No.
I hope so.
It is not.
Trade every first the rest of the decade. I am down. Give me Deshaun Watson.
Listen, like it makes a lot of sense for him to go to certain teams scheme-wise, but fiscally and contract-wise and everything else, some things don't. So he's under contract through 2025. He's owed like $500 million until 2025. He's getting that money one way or another. It's guaranteed. So you got to look at it as what team can afford to take on that contract.
Guys, I do have one hypothetical that I'm going to throw your way before we move on to our final question. If you're the Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars call you and say, we'll give you our first overall pick, our number 21 overall pick, so our 2 firsts this year, and we'll give you our first next year, plus, I don't know, like a 4th round or something like that. Would you accept that if you're the Texans?
Yeah, I would.
If it were Bill O'Brien's Texans, he'd do it in a heartbeat.
Well, if it was Bill O'Brien's Texans, Goff for Watson would have been a done deal already.
I don't know. It's just if you're the Texans and Deshaun's really unhappy there and they're trying to rebuild, again, I think you literally have to sell the farm to get Watson. But if Jacksonville gave up some huge haul, I think I would take that if I was Houston, because that means you put Trevor Lawrence into your system, get a bunch of picks, and have a chance to rebuild. Because let's not forget, they're supposed to be picking 3rd this year. They do not have that pick because of the Laramie Tunsil trade. The 10-6 Dolphins have it. So they have a lot of work to do to try to rebuild that system. And if they got offered that, that might be a chance to do it.
I will say one other spot that I could see him going to, because I would actually kind of enjoy this just because I like the fit. I could see him going to Detroit. I think for some reason Detroit would be a really good fit for Deshaun Watson, especially because Matthew Stafford's going to start for the Colts next year.
That's just is that any better as a franchise than the Texans, though, the Lions? Like, no. I was going to say maybe Pittsburgh because Ben's on the decline and they're already so good everywhere else. Like, yeah, that's another.
The quarterback carousel that's going to happen this offseason, I think, is going to be the biggest we've seen like in a while. Just with a lot of quarterbacks can retire, there might be trades, free agents, everything like that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of fun, guys. We have time for one final question. So of course it comes from Short Round.
Of course.
What animal, given human intelligence, would be the most dangerous to mankind?
I think the easy answer is monkeys or gorillas, but they already kind of have human intelligence. Also, Planet of the Apes. So, but other than that, I would say
Liger.
a liger. Yeah, here. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say crocodiles or alligators because they're low to the ground. They're already fast. They got like those like quick reptilian reflexes. They can move slow or quick. They've got the tail that's deadly. They got the chompers, you know.
Snakes.
Snakes don't have arms though. Snakes don't. See, I was gonna say snakes. I really was gonna say snakes because they're elusive. They could really like hide. Like an alligator could only hide for so long, right? But eventually it's gonna wander onto a golf course, and we're gonna be like, "Hey, there's an alligator right there." So I don't know how far that would go, but yeah, I thought about snakes. I just think the hands thing is kind of different, but I'm gonna go alligators. I think if they were really smart, I think they'd be tough, man. I'm telling you.
It probably has to be an animal that can survive on land, right? Because I mean, even if like sea animals are given intelligence, like they still have to stay in the water. So I'm trying. Yeah, probably like I would say like a tiger. I think if tigers had intelligence, that would be pretty dangerous.
Short Run just brings up a good point. He's saying cobra. It goes and collects enough of its venom and poisons a city's water supply. Yo, that's
dark, man.
That's dark.
This is really dark.
That's dark.
Yeah, that's tough. We didn't say they were like mean. Like maybe.
Yeah, we're just all assuming they're taking over the words. Random person says bird.
Birds. Like birds would probably be just all birds, just in general, not the shoes, but like all birds.
No, the answer is cats because cats are terrible already.
Yeah. I like cats.
I know you do. And Lyle doesn't like dogs.
Lyle doesn't like anything. No pets for Lyle. Okay, new question, Blake. Lyle, if you could have a pet, what would it be?
He said goldfish.
Yeah, something super easy, like a goldfish or like a
rock.
I'm vetoing that. Something. Give me a real answer.
Hamster? I don't know.
Why?
It's gonna drive around in a Kia Soul the whole time.
They're easy to manage. That's what I mean. Like.
What would you name it?
I had a hamster when I was young, but I'm trying. What would I name it?
What was the hamster's name when you were younger?
Manny.
Manny? Why?
Because I liked Manny Ramirez back then.
Oh, all right. So what would you name it now? Just think about it. Like, hey, Lyle, here's a hamster. What would you name it?
Mr. Unlimited.
Oh boy.
All right, you know what? I can't even veto that. I don't even know what else to ask. Like,
I'll just get mine in really quickly, just because I remember I heard this not too long ago. It was some hypothetical scenario that I was listening to on a podcast. It was pretty much what would happen if ants teamed up and attacked the world.
Oh.
I heard something where there's like, for every person on Earth, there's like 12,000 ants or something like that. I looked it up. I just Googled it. There's over 1 quadrillion ants currently roaming the world. So if they just all, got smart, teamed up and took over, got a quadrillion ants out there coming at us. And I don't like the thought of that. So
they already are smart, man. They've got their own little communist societies.
All right. So that's a perfect way, as always, to wrap up this show. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you missed any of the show, you guys can go listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Hit us up over there, Harris Highlights Show. The link is in the description. You guys can follow us on Twitter. Where's that banner over here? Right, just at the HH Show _. A lot of cool, fun college football content there. Maybe we're going to be doing another cash giveaway for the national championship.
Sure.
No one. Thanks, Ohio State, because you won. We didn't have to give any money away because no one picked. I think there was like a total of 30 replies, and I think only 2 people picked Ohio State, but they didn't pick them to win by 21 points. So if you have any interest in winning potential cash, you guys can correctly predict the winner of the national championship game. We'll send some cash your way. Some more incentive to follow us on Twitter at the HH Show _. You guys can help support the show on Patreon. You guys can donate as little as $1 a month. You guys can get behind the scenes perks, access to our Twitter group message. That is a whole lot of fun. We're on Discord now. The link to that is in the description as well. So hit us up over there. We're everywhere. Guys, any parting words before we do our next show, potentially next week, a date to be determined. But got the Natty coming up, but any final thoughts?
Tom Allen was robbed of Coach of the Year.
I agree. I also would like to congratulate our friend Brady for drinking a glass of whiskey on the show this week, and I don't think
A
anyone's
real
done that.
glass of whiskey.
Knowingly
It is
so
real
far,
whiskey.
so congratulations.
Congratulations,
And a
Brady.
big cube and everything too.
Yeah.
Here's to the Natty being a good game. Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit have had 0 close games to call this year. And
The
Fowler
mega
talked about
cast
that.
is back.
Here's to them.
Yeah,
Here's
exactly.
to under 75 points being scored in the Alabama money line, and Devontae Smith being the first touchdown of the game. All right, guys. So again, hit us up everywhere. Thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up. For Josh Schaefer, Lyle Goldstein, Brady Klein, this has been Blake Harris from the Chateau at Monrovia, California. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the national championship game. We're going to see you guys right back here again next week.